back, everyone. Today we have an unboxing of something that I've been after a long time. This is a proper benchtop multimeter, and none of this is going to be a commentary on the manufacturer's packaging ability directly, because I did buy this secondhand. But let's go ahead and get into it. And while I'm doing that, the reason that I've been after a bench multimeter is that in some of my reviews, there are occasionally things that I want to log over time. Temperature being a good example. I've had a couple of reviews where I was able to take instantaneous temperatures, but what I really wanted was a chart of the temperature over time. And a good example of those would be reviews where I've looked at various mini PCs. So I got a particularly good deal on this MS8040. That is a Mastech multimeter, which might not immediately be an obvious brand. Everyone's familiar with Fluke, and everyone's seen meters from Craftsman or Greenwood and such. Greenlee and such. And what they don't realize is that they've probably seen and held a Mastech meter, because a lot of these are sold as the house brand for various retailers. I know Harbor Freight uses Mastech meters in their Centec and Ames lines. Actually, my primary meter is a Harbor Freight meter that was a Mastech model. Fantastic meter, does all my environmental measurements I could ask for, but it doesn't have any ability to log things over time, which is, as you can see, something they're showing off right on the package here. Looks like it opens here. Looks like whoever sold this basically kept all the accessories. Nice little manual, so props to Mastech for this. We've got pictures of how to use the various measurement functions. All very well laid out. Some accuracy ratings. Plus or minus 1%, plus 2 on the temperature. Accuracy applies following 90 minutes settings time after a change in ambient temperature of the instrument. So what that line means is if I have my instrument in my studio here and I take it somewhere else, somewhere that's, say, 10 degrees warmer, I basically have to let it sit for an hour and a half to really have the same accuracy that it was before, to make sure all the internal components normalize. So we've got some frequency responses, which are good. Plus or minus 0.05% on the voltage accuracy for DC. AC 60 hertz to 5 kilohertz, plus or minus 1.5. 20 to 100% of the full range. The presentation for accuracy is plus or minus A% reading digits plus B digits. All right. We've got an RS-232 interface, which is the big ticket item here. That's enough poking at the manual. Let's get a look at the meter itself. All right, so here's the meter. And we've got a power cord. I'm hoping that if I open this compartment, I get what looks like, I think this lived its entire life on a shelf. Yeah, because this thermocouple looks brand new. These meters don't look like they've ever been used. These aren't the best feeling leads I've ever felt, but they're certainly not the worst. And the one thing, yeah, so we've got a couple of options for power. We've got AC power. There's a battery cover here, so it says DC 9 volt or DC 1.5 volt times 6. So if I open that compartment, which let me grab a screwdriver, I should have a couple of options there. Of course, I don't think this battery compartment's ever been open. So we've got fancy. So we've got a 9-volt battery compartment here, and then we have a 9-volt lead with an adapter that just plugs into 6 AA's. That's a nice trick. That said, for my application, we'll probably be using mains power because, you know what, as much as I like batteries and I like the idea that I could carry this somewhere with that little shoulder strap, if I want to read the temperature over the course of 6 hours, I don't want to risk the batteries going dead. So let's go ahead and stand that up like that so we can see the display. So it looks like we've got a decent display. We've got the ability to do maximum min. We've got this PC link button here. And that, like I said, that's the big feature that I'm after. And I've got a little bit of extra work I'm going to have to do to make that work. But I just want to go ahead and turn this on. Alright, so does that go? No, that looks like that goes in that way. That's a nice feature, though. It looks like there's actually a thermal probe built into the meter. If you can see that, we're reading 26, 27 degrees Fahrenheit. And I bet that if I... Nope. Is there a way for me to change this? Or sorry, 26, 27 Celsius. Is there a way for me to... Nope. Let me check the manual. This may only read degrees Celsius. My other meter does Celsius or Fahrenheit, but specifically has a button to change between the two. 17, temperature measurement, turn rotary connection multifunction socket in terminal with voltage ohm terminal, which is what I've done. Connect COM terminal with COM. K-type thermocouple to multifunction socket. It looks like we read in Celsius only, which is a little bit disappointing. However, we can do math. And so let's plug this thermocouple in and see how it handles that. All right, and that's a very, very sensitive response. The second I touched this thermocouple, it started going up. And it's just between my fingers here. And it starts to drop back down the second I let go of it. So that's excellent work. The included thermocouple is going to be fantastic, and that's really the star of our show here. There's not a whole ton to say about the outside of the meter. It's just a standard meter. It is a bench meter, so we get an analog display here as well. What is some... Oh, there we go. Say, I have AC voltage right here. So, we'll just set it to volts. And COM goes here. Actually, we're going to set it to hertz because that's a little more exciting. And if I plug... Well, that's nice. So these, I didn't notice that right away, look relatively short, but have little safety caps on them that allows me to, do something ill-advised and just jam them directly into an AC socket here, which that's interesting. Not getting any reading on that, even though I should, and I wonder if that's my... I wonder if that's an issue with the... cable. This is a very cheap cable that I'm putting these in, and I wonder if it doesn't. Looks like, there we go. So it looked like these weren't reaching far enough to make contact. Yeah, I am just not making contact inside that socket. Well, that sucks. I don't suppose I've got, a charged battery here to at least show that the voltage works. For the record, I'm not blaming the meter for this. I'm blaming my really cheap 2-pin power lead that was selected for size. As opposed to, that one's dead. This is what I get for just having a crap load of batteries in here that I never use. Oh, for fuck's sake. There we go. I think... Nope. Well, maybe that wasn't it. So I thought maybe I didn't have the leads sufficiently in the meter. There we go. Okay, so no surprise. I've got, a just AA Duracell here. And if not that this is easy to do, this would be one place where batteries would be easier. I get about 1.273 volts, which is entirely in line with what I expect out of a rechargeable AA. Alright, sorry for cutting the voltage short. I got a phone call, but in the meantime, I went and got just a 2-pin IEC cord, and the reason I got this was so that I wasn't plugging a pin into a round connector, and so that we could look at, lo and behold, 60 hertz. And it's probably easier to see if I turn on the backlight. And that is what I expect to see out of a residential US AC circuit. And if I go ahead and switch this to voltage, there we go. All right. So I had my range set wrong. Big shock. Put it back in auto mode, and lo and behold, I've got a happy 122 volts, which is a little high residentially, but anything between 110 and 125 is fine. And there's always variance in there. I was happy to see, the 60 hertz solid. Depending on where in your house you measure the voltage, you're going to get different numbers. But anyway, the purpose of this was not to show, the ultimate accuracy of the meter or anything like that. This was just a quick functionality check. We checked a DC voltage, checked an AC voltage, saw the frequencies. And on the AC voltage there, you can actually see we've got a little analog chart on the top as well. Quick walk through the rest of the features here. Oh. We do use a grounded 3-pin plug, and I mentioned the power option already. There is a COM port here. In my case, I seem to have taken it off the shelf. I have a COM to USB adapter that I'm going to be using that with, and that'll let me log data off of this meter on my laptop or a tablet without too much issue. Since we're done, I'll unplug that. It's got a nice little handle on here that presumably can go on either side, little strappy handle. And we've got the option to carry it through those metal lugs. Got a little kickstand, which is nice. Instead of being flat on the bench, that'll let me put it, up like this. So that I'm looking more directly at the screen. And the nice little storage compartment. Overall, decent build quality. It's not a Fluke. I don't expect this to compete with a Fluke. Price-wise, this is, a $250 bench meter and not a $2,000 bench meter. So that's just the nature of you get what you pay for. And quite frankly, we're going to be using it to measure the temperature of, mini PCs and processors and things like that, to an accuracy of 0.1 degree, not 0.0001 degrees. If I had two heat sinks, if I was doing a review on heat sinks, and the measured difference between them was 1 degree Celsius, I'm going to tell you to take whichever one's quieter, because 1 degree Celsius doesn't really translate to much of anything. Now, if it's suddenly 5 degrees Celsius, well, actually, that's a little bit more room for a better overclock, or to turn down the fans a little bit. Some more voltage that you can push through for that overclock. It's room to do something. So it's all relative to what your goal is here. If I'm not trying to find the next, what is that, Bose-Einstein condensate, then I don't need a meter that can read the temperatures required for that. Good construction. I like this little multi-adapter. This will do transistors as well as this K-type thermocouple. So that is a nice inclusion. And I really do appreciate this internal storage. I do wish it came with slightly better test leads and slightly longer test leads. These aren't terribly short. And these are, the one thing that I can definitely go replace. The jacketing on these, you can see it's kind of holding its shape. Better test leads will be more of a flexible rubber. I put the wrong color cap on it. There's nothing wrong with these, and these are perfectly serviceable, and they're not really all that different from the ones that came with my handheld meter. But, you know, better leads are nicer. So, and I will probably get, yeah, that doesn't come off, a couple that, you know, have some clamps or something for grabbing things as well. This is, how do I want to phrase this? This is a good meter and it does everything it says on the box. This is not the world's best multimeter. Just like my other meter. You know, this is my Centec meter, which is actually a Mastech 8000 series meter. This is not the best meter, but this does all the things that I need it to do. And this even does some things that might not sound obvious as important. Like I can do light measurements. I can tell the relative light here is, you know, 400 lux, and do a sound level and check the decibels of what's going on, and hertz and duty cycle and all that stuff that ends up being more important than it should be at first glance when you work on IT or you're doing product reviews. You know, how loud is that fan? Well, I can measure how loud that fan is with my meter. How bright is this LED? How else do I tell you that without having the ability to measure something, be it lumens or lux? And, you know, if I do all my measurements, you know, 1 foot away or the same distance away with the same meter all the time, I get useful data. All in all, Mastech 8040, true RMS multimeter. I'm fairly impressed. I might take time to open it up down the road and see what all else is in here. Honestly, I expect to find just, you know, a circuit board with some adjustable pots, and most of this devoted to power. And then we've got our display here. Meters have really become kind of boring to look at when you look at the insides. So if you want to see me open it, let me know in the comments below, and we'll do a teardown. And if there's anything you want to see me subject this to specifically as far as testing is concerned, you know, this isn't really a review. This is just an unboxing and a, you know, here's a new piece of equipment we're going to be using going forward. Let me know in the comments below. I want to go ahead and thank Electrix for providing our opening and closing music. And as always, I want to thank our patrons. Your support helps make stuff like this possible. And if you're interested in helping make content like this and other content on our channel and webpage become more feasible, go ahead and check that out. There'll be a link in the description below.